Yeah, well, we all grew up with superhero movies, everything from Superman and Batman back in the 80s and 90s, and then, obviously when Marvel blew up again and all that, we have there's kind of a language that says hero, that says victory. So you kind of have to live in that world somewhat, but then do your own thing. So like on a show like Agent Carter a couple years ago, the Marvel show, because that took place right after World War II, I got to be sort of, jazzy and sort of, jazz influenced, but still heroic. She was Captain America's girlfriend, so it sort of, turned into a sort of, 1940s version of superhero. But then this new show, The Boys, which is actually like the opposite of superhero, which is basically the superheroes are not the heroes. They're corrupt and it's pretty edgy. So for this we actually have one sound, which is The Boys, who are actually not superheroes. They're trying to take the corrupt superheroes down, and that's like garage and rocky, and it's like kind of like British punk all mixed together. So there's guitars and bass, and everything's very distorted and angry and violent and all that kind of stuff. And then the superheroes themes, because they're corrupt, we did it with a big orchestra, kind of like you would expect a superhero to music to be done, but then we put it in the computer. We actually changed the pitch and had it warp out of tune, and actually sometimes it slows down and reverses and becomes very noisy, and that's to sort of represent the idea that our superheroes are not so super. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So I've actually seen the season so far, and so I was going to ask you about
Insane, right?
Yeah, it's great. And so what I was going to ask about this is, because like what the process was for doing the work, like you said, it's different from your other superhero films.
Yeah.
And it's also like, it's this weird way where some of the music almost feels like it doesn't fit because it's like, it's serious but not supposed to be, like it's a serious scene, but the music makes it lighter. Like what is that process like to kind of score some of these scenes in? Because you're trying to get almost like two emotions out of the audience.
Yeah. Well, the comic was originally very much that way, where it's incredibly violent and offensive and edgy, and you kind of can't believe what's going on. But at the same time, it's done with a wink, because you're actually making comments about society and greed and public relations, and things are, everything's sort of a show for these superheroes. Like they're literally, they have a public persona, and they have this stuff that they do back behind the scenes, which is not very on the up and up. So our job, like you said, was to make sort of not only the first thing you realize when you're listening that, oh, this is very violent or very intense, but then there has to be that underpinning of, yeah, it's a little quirky and funny too. Like there's, I can't give away, there's all these spoilers that you've seen that, that like you can't believe, like, oh my God, that person's dead now because of X. But it can't be scored just like a death scene. It kind of also has to have a little bit of a comedic portion to it, of a lightheartedness, because you kind of don't like that person anyway, and you kind of wanted them to die, and you didn't want them, and then when you see how they die, it's sort of like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. So there's a lot of there's sort of bit of comedy that mixes with that, and it's a very, to me, I find it very interesting. I think it's something people haven't seen before. So what I hope is that people really like it, and then they talk about it, and they go, oh, well, you know what? Some of the comments it's making are actually kind of pretty serious, astute comments about society and how far we've come into this world where everything is on social media. It's all processed and it's all photoshopped, and there's some other stuff that goes on that might not be as real as you think it is.
I was going to say, to comment further on that, typically when you're dealing with projects of this type, where you have various characters, you have to find a way to distinguish them one from the other and find their own theme. Can you talk a bit about that process?
Absolutely. So one of the things that Eric Kripke, who created the show, and Seth Rogen, who's producing, who I work with on Sausage Party, one of the things they said was that they want to make sure that the Boys' sound gives it a personality for them, which is not traditional superhero, which is the opposite, which is very garage band, very gritty. And so we kind of went in that direction. And then Billy Butcher, who's our lead, Carl Urban, in the show, he's British, and he's sort of rough around the edges. And so we said, let's go with sort of a little bit of a British punk vibe. So there's like a little bit of the Clash, a little bit of Sex Pistols, that kind of stuff, all mixed in with that music. And like you said, it was specifically tailored around his vibe. Now Starlight, who is sort of the young female lead, who's from Iowa, and she's hopeful, and she's small town, we definitely made sure that she's coming from a place where there's a little more acoustic guitar, there's a little bit more, contemporary pop youthfulness to it, but still wrapped up in the world of someone who wants to be a superhero. So each character kind of gets their sound that gives them what they want. Even there's a guy named Frenchie who's part of the boys, and so his sound is, most of his dramatic stuff is made up of reversed and processed French accordion, like musette accordion, which you'd hear on the streets of Paris, but it's actually playing parts that strings would play. So we ended up using it and warping it to make it feel like it was something unique and original. Right, I know, it's hard.
It's so much.
It's only 8 more days, we're so close.
I know, only 8 more days.
Whoa! I know that show.
So, I'm going to like the process of actually scoring some of these episodes, because it's like, I guess each episode is different. You have different directors. And I know, like, when I talk to the producers of films and things like that, it's like somebody they're sitting down with the actual director as they're kind of shooting the scene. When they come in afterwards to see the scene, like, what was your process for kind of going into these episodes that are kind of drastically different from each other? You had different directors. Like, what's that process like to actually kind of go through some of these things?
Sure. Well, I mean, luckily in a show like this, my boss day to day was Eric Kripke, who I've been doing his stuff for 30 years. We went to college together. He's one of my dearest friends. We were doing things for free together long ago, including Supernatural that you just saw, and Revolution and all these other things. So he's the boss, and he would tell me what he wants, and then Seth and Evan also at the beginning chimed in. But so I didn't have to deal with specific different directors along the way. Although I did deal with Dan Trachtenberg, who did the pilot, who's amazing, and he sort of set some of those things in motion too. But one of the things that we did at the very beginning to come up with a sound is actually sit in my studio in a room, and I'm not a great drummer, I'm not a great bass player. I play guitar as my main instrument. There's a lot of things I don't play. But we actually ended up finding that me and, 3 other people who worked on the show with me, my assistant Dara, an amazing producer Matt Bowen, and Alex Bornstein, we all got together, and I would play drums, even though I'm not a good drummer, because it was supposed to sound dirty and gritty and messy. So it was and once Eric started hearing these things, he's like, yeah, that's the sound I'm looking for. I'm looking for that messiness. Which of course was funny for me, because I'm like, you sure you don't want to hire a better drummer? Because I kind of suck at this. But he's like, no, that's right. That's what we want. And okay, cool. And that kind of thing. So hopefully that's good what you're looking for.
All right.
Good. Chris, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you. Thank you, man.